Thank you very much, everyone, for joining on, it seems like a sunny Sunday from most parts of Japan. So my name is Kayo. I'm from Pearson, and I'm the ELL Portfolio Manager for Asia. And I have with me today the founder of the Gamerize Dictionary and school owner, Adam Kardos. Adam, do you want to give a quick self-introduction?
Hello, yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm Adam, as Kayo said. I've been running schools in Japan for about 15 years. And most recently, we've been making print materials, and the Gamerize Dictionary has been my main project for the last couple of years.
Thank you. Before we start the presentation, I just want to mention that we are giving away free trials of English Benchmark Young Learners, or EBYL, which we will talk about in today's presentation, as well as free trials of Gamerize. So for those of you who are interested, a colleague of ours will share a link to request the free trial. There's a very simple form that you need to fill out, and that's in the chat box. So I think we can dive in, and we'll start off also with a quick introduction from our representative director of Pearson Japan, Yutaka Teranishi. So I'm going to hand it over to Yutaka.
じゃあ私の方からは資料を日本語で用意しましたので、日本語の方で説明させていただきます。ピアソンジャパンの寺西と申します。本日は日曜日の、お忙しいというか、せっかく休みの時間のところ、貴重なお時間にありがとうございます。12時までの1時間半のセッションになりますが、いろいろ少しでも参考になることを提供できればと思います。で、最初に会社の状況だけ説明させていただきます。で、ピアソンという会社、辞書のロングマンとかっていうタイトルでご存知かもしれませんけれども、日本では一番のところは英語の教科書、あとは英語のアセスメントということで、非常にお客様から高い評価をいただいております。次のページお願いします。で、本社はイギリスで、全世界160カ国でビジネスしているんですけども、世界の中では5つぐらい事業部あるんですが、特に日本のピアソンジャパンはELL ということで、英語学習のサービスにフォーカスしております。で、上の方に書いてあります学校教育向け、あと下に書いてあります法人向けの企業様に、最近は大きなウェイトでサービスを提供しております。次お願いします。で、ここに書いてあるような形で、いろんなタイトルの教科書、今まで目に触れたもの、あるかと思いますけれども、それらの教科書すべてが、下に書いております、セファールに基づく、ピアソン独自の、GSE というスコールという、スコアでマッピングしておりまして、10から90とセファールを対応させておりまして、どのレベルで、どの教科書を学べばいいかというところが、子どもから大人まで、すべてこの GSA を基準に英語のレベルを測っております。次お願いします。はい。で、今回なぜその紙の教科書のピアソンがということで、お感じになる方もいらっしゃるかもしれませんけども、今、ピアソン全体の中でも、時代に合わせて、また技術がだいぶ進んできておりますので、アプリとか、e ラーニングとか、あとはその、デジタルリソースを通してもう少し英語を勉強していただくというのが、受講者の方、生徒の方にとっていいんじゃないかということで、コンテンツのデジタル化を進めております。また、それに連動した形でアセスメントというものも用意しておりますので、この教科書と、学んだところをアセスメントで測っていただくということで、今回、一つのパートナーの例としまして、この弊社のコンテンツをゲームライズ様の方に搭載していただいて、で学習していただくということを、サービスを今回ラウンジしました。これ、最後のページでしたか。以上になります。ぜひ最初の冒頭で説明ありましたように、ご興味ありましたら、無料ライセンスとセットアップさせていただきますので、ぜひ12時まで楽しんでいただければと思います。よろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much for that introduction. We're very excited about our partnership between Pearson and Gamerize. So let's dive in. I'm just going to go quickly, back to show the agenda for today. So we've gone through the introductions, and then now we're going to talk about what is differentiation, and then we'll go into why we want to use differentiated instruction in our classrooms. Maybe Adam will share a little bit about the challenges around differentiation, and then we'd like to show differentiation in action through Super Kids, through English Benchmark Young Learners, which is our assessment for kids. And then finally, we will have a Q&A section as well, because we do want to hear your questions and feedback. So Adam, I'm going to stop sharing screen. What is differentiated instruction? Maybe we want to hear from everyone in the audience.
Yeah, I'd like to get everyone kind of on board and talking about this a bit from the start. I know differentiated instruction is something that, whether we like it or not, most of us are kind of doing to some extent, in that we always have students with different needs and characteristics and that sort of thing. But yeah, let me offer this as a kind of question to begin. Okay, whoopsie daisies. All right, so I'm just going to outline a class situation for you and ask you guys, what would you do with, if you were to teach this class? How would you prepare for this? What would you do? So imagine you have the following class. Your lesson topic is after school activities, and there are 10 students in the class, but there are kind of 4 distinct groups. We've got a couple of students that are in their second year of learning English. They still lack basic vocabulary and grammar. They're really kind of just getting started, although they're not, it's not their first English lesson. Then group 2, we've got students in about their 3rd year, and they're beginning to communicate well, and they can read, but are not really able to write much yet. 3rd group, they're confident at spelling, and they do really well with grammar exercises, and they've done a lot of that kind of controlled written work, but they kind of struggle to communicate. Maybe they're a bit shy, they lack a bit of confidence, but they don't tend to speak a lot. And then finally, you've got a really strong group who've been studying English for over 5 years, and they can hold a basic conversation quite well. They're able to write at length as well. But both the speaking and the writing, it's a little bit all over the place. Their accuracy is probably one of their main issues. So you have all these 10 students in one class. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. I want you to brainstorm together. What would you do? How would you adjust for this very varied group of students? All right, so what I'm going to do is just put those points in the chat. So I'm just going to copy this here. And then stop share for a second. There you go. Can everyone see those points?
Yep, I can.
You can? Okay, so here we go. I'll throw you into the breakout rooms. Let's take about 4 or 5 minutes. And yeah, what are your ideas? How would you accommodate for this mixed ability class? So yeah, so this is the kind of situation, the type of class that differentiation can really help out with. And so let me share a little bit more about what is differentiation. Okay. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this here. Does anyone have any good ideas that they could share? Any ideas that they can sort of make this class work? You can throw them in the chat, or please, it's not a huge group today, so you could unmute yourself and share. Eric, what are your thoughts on that one?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I haven't had too much experience with various levels other than a Monday program that we ran for about 6 years, where we had some students who were older or stronger in certain skill sets. And so we did a lot of discussion-based things. We put the stronger students maybe with weaker students in more of a mentor role. Those are just a few things off the top of my head without planning.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely having a more learner-centered class can help with that. So if they're doing things together rather than the teacher delivering one single kind of type of content, yeah, excellent idea.
We'd also, I just remember we did group projects as well. So we did, story writing and stuff where they illustrated books and stuff. So that was another thing.
Very good for mixed abilities. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, anyone else had any interesting ideas of how to make a class with such dispersed levels work well? Seeing some stuff in the chat there. Yes. So Satoko saying, let them talk, even making mistakes. Yep, definitely. I think certainly we can't be just watching everything that every student is doing, especially if they are very different levels. So allowing for a certain amount of making mistakes is a good idea. Okay. All right, well, we'll stop with that for a moment. And so let me tell you a little bit more about what differentiation is, and then we'll follow in towards the end. We are going to do a walkthrough of a class that fits this exact profile, and you'll see how we were able to, or how I was able to make adjustments and adaptations so that it worked for their specific needs. Okay, so what is differentiated instruction? So I think it's easiest to understand when compared to what is not differentiated instruction. So in a standard class, we kind of look at our students in the class as being just one group with the same characteristics, the same level. We're sort of picturing this group as not being a collection of individuals, but as one kind of chunk. And we're delivering a lesson, which tends to be, again, a set type of content directly to that whole group. This can be done in a more learner-centered way. We might have set content and activities, and we have students working together on them. But again, this isn't exactly differentiated instruction, because in differentiated instruction, we're really looking at the students' individual levels, preferences, characteristics. And we're acknowledging those, and we're also catering to those specific needs by delivering different types of content, whether it's leveled differently, targeting different skills, or even sometimes on different subject matter. So differentiation can be, is a focus on individual learner needs rather than thinking about the whole class's needs, but very specifically each individual learner. So it's kind of a way of seeing the class in a sense. And I think when you start to really apply it, it can have some effect on the decisions you make during class, in that you don't always think, I need to do something for everyone. You can specifically run the class at different paces and give the learners different things at the same time. So differentiation can mean varying the content. So this could be the level of the content. It can be the subject of the content. Maybe you have some learners that are more interested in sports and some that are more interested in, for example, music. So changing that up depending on what they're interested in. It can be varying the process, and this is how we run the lesson. It could be, for example, using more games, could be using more video content. It could be using more reading, working together, working individually. Learners will have different preferences or will thrive better with certain types of instruction than others. The environment, actually changing the place and the groupings and how the class is set up. And finally, varying the assessment. This can mean just giving different levels of assessment to learners. It can also mean letting the learners demonstrate their progress in their own kinds of ways. So it could be, through a project, through a piece of writing, through a recording, a video, portfolio type of assessment or something like that. And yeah, we'll look more specifically at those very soon. So let's look a little bit at some of the why we would use differentiated instruction, some of the advantages, and then some of the difficulties or disadvantages. So first of all, this is kind of an obvious one. I think the students learn better. Obviously, if we're targeting not just, our aim is not just to deliver some set content that we've pre-planned, but we're specifically working on an individual learner's needs, then this is going to be more effective and help them to progress at a better rate and more efficiently. Students are more motivated, and this one's really big for me. And so how does differentiated instruction result in higher levels of motivation? Well, when we're focusing on learners' needs and we're really aware of what their strengths and weaknesses are, we're able to pitch content to them that is really just right in their wheelhouse. So it's a little bit difficult, but not too hard. And when we're able to give this kind of optimal level of challenge to students, they get that feeling of, oh, I tried to do something new and I succeeded. I was able to do it. So this is a really, for me, one of the most important points of differentiated instruction. It's fair and equitable. If we're delivering a set content to a whole class, that might meet the needs of some students. It might be, if you're using lots of games, that might be something that some students really like, but some students may feel a bit left out. They're not getting what they want, and they might be getting something that's a bit too hard or that's a bit too easy. So this is something that's fair for the class. This is a more practical one. It's a lot easier to make group classes. So particularly, I think for smaller schools, but not only that, I mean, in any case, if you've got a set schedule of classes and then you have a new student who wants to sign up and you don't have their exact level, you don't have a class that fits them exactly, differentiation does make it easier for you to kind of find a place for them in a class that's perhaps a little bit easier or perhaps a little bit harder, and then to be able to make adaptations for that student. And finally, this is a related point. It really helps with mixed ability classes. So often, I mean, I think that every class is a mixed ability class, perhaps not to the degree of the class that I outlined before, but you're always going to have some students that are, progress faster, are stronger at reading or stronger at speaking or spelling or whatever it is. So every class is a mixed ability class, and differentiated instruction can really help to make those classes work better and make sure that everyone's getting what they need. So let's move on to the disadvantages, and there are fewer of them, but some of them are quite big. So the first one, it's time consuming. So obviously, if you've got a class of 10 students and you're trying to create individual assignments for each 10 students in that class, this is going to take time. I have one question for you guys, and please give me your answers in the chat, just a number. How much time do your teachers have, or do you have at your school to plan for a 1 hour lesson? So if the lesson time is 1 hour, how much prep time would you allot for that, or would you expect to use for that? Please put that number in the chat.
At least an hour from Suzuki Sensei, Satoko Sensei. 10 minutes from John, and 90 minutes from Kikuchi Sensei. Amano Sensei, 30 minutes to an hour. Freddy Sensei, 45 to an hour. Mayu Sensei, 30 minutes to an hour. It's about an hour or so average.
Yeah, okay. So I think on average, people are looking at about an hour of prep time to an hour of class time, a 1-to-1 ratio, or less than that. In some cases, much less than that, 10 minutes. 90 minutes is a very, very realistic to me. I can easily spend 4 hours planning for a lesson if I want to. But yeah, I think if we're pushing above the 1-to-1 ratio there, our days get very busy. You know, if you've got 4 hours of class and then more than 4 hours of prep time, then that easily becomes, yes, quite a long day, doesn't it? So yeah, so with differentiated instruction, I mean, that does increase the amount of prep you could potentially do for a class. It requires a high level of skill, and this can be both for the assessment or actually the delivery or the creation of content. As mentioned before, one of the key points of differentiated instruction is that it's focused on learners' needs. So we do need to know what those needs are. And it does require a pretty keen observer or an experienced teacher to really keep track of and understand what it is that is holding the student back or what their needs are. And in terms of making content, not everyone is, I think all teachers are curriculum developers in some sense, but obviously novice teachers or teachers without a lot of time, you know, creating brilliant new worksheets and stuff for each and every student in every class is very challenging, and it's a high level teaching skill. The class may appear more chaotic, and I think this is a really important one. I think it's true about student-centered classes. When you have students working together, the casual observer, a parent or some kind of stakeholder, may look in and go, oh, what's going on in this class? I don't understand what they're doing. This is even more so with a differentiated instruction class, where the students may be not only working together in groups and some of them working alone, they're also working on different things and on different timings. So it can be a bit chaotic. And in fact, the cameraman that we had film the class that I'm going to show you shortly found it quite difficult. He was running around following me, trying to figure out what the structure and what things were, what was going on. And he found it a bit hard to follow. So though it may appear more chaotic, there's a lot more learning, a lot more engagement going on within that. But it's something to consider. So it doesn't necessarily display as well as, for example, having all of the students repeat along with the teacher in a choral drill, which is very easy to understand for a parent or an observer. Okay, I'm going to stop there for 1 second. So those disadvantages are, there's only 3 of them listed there, but particularly the first one, the amount of time that it takes is quite large. I want to talk a little bit. So we're going to introduce a few different resources that can help with this today. The Gamerize Dictionary, English Benchmark Young Learner Assessment Test, and also the Super Kids series, which I've used in the video. So Kayo, would you like to tell us about one of these resources and how that relates to differentiated instruction?
Yes, thanks, Adam. So I think we've had some really good discussions on this so far. And as Adam has mentioned, one of the reasons to implement differentiated instruction is because we have learners of very different character types, levels, abilities in the same classroom. And I think it's especially true for young learner classrooms. And oftentimes I have seen like very confident students, while others might be a bit shyer. I was probably one of those shy students back in the day. And then oftentimes those quieter students, I think, are labeled kind of the less able students in the classroom. And we know that's not the case. So I think trying to give children the opportunity to do kind of more group work and pair work would definitely help in those instances, and definitely helped me when I was a shy kid. So that's what I'm showing here on the screen, just some exercises, activities that I've popped out of Super Kids, where we have a lot of ample group work and pair work. It allows the children not to have to stand up, and say something by themselves, which could be a bit daunting or scary, and it helps them have kind of more conversational language freer speaking, and helps build confidence. In my breakout room, Satoko sensei was saying it could be difficult sometimes in those situations when one child can't speak as much as the other, but we've also seen this works really well, as Eric sensei was talking about, in terms of kind of the mentor role as well. And I want to share a story a little bit also from another one of our authors who talks about this as well. But just showing here again on the screen that the author of Super Kids, Alida Krauss, felt really strongly about putting a lot of pair work and group work into Super Kids and having them be able to say things in meaningful contexts as well. That was one of the key points she drew out, just to make sure that kids are talking about things they want to talk about what they do after school. They like cats, what kind of animals they like, things like that. And pair work and group work allows children also to take on different roles and responsibilities. It makes them need to be a bit more accountable as well. And this also develops those 21st century skills that I've put up there as well. So doing this kind of pair work and group work will help foster 21st century skills like teamwork and collaboration and negotiation and creativity. So I do want to share this story from one of our teachers, our authors, Akiko Seino sensei. And she was a firm believer that learning is retained more through teaching others. So going back to Eric sensei's point about kind of that mentor role, which I really like. So I'm going to share this story that she told to us. So once I gave my class a task where they needed to read aloud a picture book in pairs. One girl was paired up with a boy who constantly said, "Wakannai," I don't understand, to everything. She could have read the entire book to him, but she sat down with him and helped him learn to read the pages by giving him hints and pointing to previous pages he was familiar with. She was acting like, and was indeed, a little teacher. Towards the end of the lesson, the boy was proudly reading the book by himself. And she says, that was just one of the many memorable episodes that I see in my class on a daily basis. And to Adam's point, she also is really worried about the chaotic classroom. She says that mothers come in and they see everyone kind of working in pairs in different corners and things like that. But it was really powerful for her, I think, this story. And she says, kids need teachers and classmates who empower and encourage them. My students regularly motivate and inspire each other by teaching each other and setting a good example for themselves. So I thought that was kind of a nice story to share. And then this slide is just showing also about giving different types of activities to different groups of students. So always having extra activities lined up is important as well. And we'll see that in the video that Adam will share as well. So for those for fast finishers, for example, you'll have extra activities so that they can move on to something else. And then having an interesting bank activities is also important. So they don't feel like they're being punished. So you need to keep them interesting instead of mundane or boring. So if the activities look fun, then the other children will also be motivated to want to do those extra activities as well. And I think Gamerize is also a perfect example of this, and Adam will share a bit more about that as well. So I'm just showing you some of the photocopyable extension activities we have for each unit in Super Kids. There is also a very extensive activity bank. So I'm not showing you the whole thing, but I think this is the level 1 teacher's book, has about 8 pages of activities that you can pull from, which are all fun and interesting, tried and tested in the classroom. And it's important, as Adam said, that you choose activity based on children's preference so that you can keep them engaged and motivated. Also, we have on the right side a wealth of activities in primary academy. This is something we set up during the pandemic because teachers just needed a lot of, again, ample activities and things that they could also do online. So not only does primary academy have like printable worksheets, but also has interactive games, songs, video-based activities as well. So again, a wealth of material that you can pull from to use in these kinds of mixed ability classrooms and to provide differentiated instruction.
Yeah, that certainly helps with the, the planning, the time consuming aspect of it, right? Often what I've found as well is if you can give learners options, when you give them that autonomy, if you can say like, hey, what do you want to do out of these things? They're way more eager to jump in and way more engaged when they actually do it because they've chosen it themselves.
Exactly, yeah. So we try to provide lots of different types of games and activities because every student's going to want to do something different. But again, don't worry about that chaotic environment, I think is also what we want to, the message we want to get across. Did you want to share that video now, Adam, or?
Yeah, I could. So what
that
would be the best order here? I can go through the video, or I feel like a lot of the people in attendance know Gamerize Dictionary, but can I ask a quick question to anyone out there? Would it be useful for me to give a 3-minute run through of Gamerize Dictionary, or are you already familiar with it?
It's a good idea to do a 3-minute demo. I think there are a few people who might not have seen it before.
Yes to both. Okay. Okay, so you will see the Gamerize Dictionary used in action during class in the video, but just so if anyone's not as familiar with it, I just want to do a real quick run through, just so that everyone kind of knows what it is that the kids are doing in the video there. Let me share again. Okay. So yeah, I won't have time to do a walkthrough and actually screen share the app. That would easily take up an hour. So just really quickly, the Gamerize Dictionary, we're calling it the funnest dictionary in the world. And I think there are a lot of kids out there that would agree with that. I'm going to play just a 30-second clip that kind of gives you an example of an idea of what the student's experience is.
Hungry. Mouth.
My English lessons are fun.
Okay, so just a real quick one, just 30 seconds to give you an idea of how fun and what kind of games are in it. So what the Gamerize Dictionary helps you to do is it allows teachers to assign whether it's vocabulary, grammar, phonics, reading, any kind of custom content that you want. And very quickly, without having to create it from scratch, just in a minute and a half, make content and assign it to students or classes or groups within classes. And the content comes out into these sequences of games that include things such as an RPG game, castle building, and all sorts of things. It combines gamification. There's a lot of mini games in it. There's that, again, the castle building kind of motivating Farmville sort of aspect to it. Voice recognition, and this is one thing that I always want to highlight. We've got voice recognition in Gamerize Dictionary that's specifically designed for young learners. It's used machine learning on a huge data sample of children's voices in development. And for that reason, it's quick, accurate, and it's just very precise, and it works for kids, which a lot of other voice recognition APIs on the market, such as Siri or whatever, just don't really work well for kids. There's a few different applications of AI in it. There's AI guided reviews that ensure that the students are getting specifically work on their trouble areas or the items that they're tending to struggle with. There's also an adaptive element that will kind of raise or lower the difficulty level for pronunciation, which is, again, going back to that optimal level of challenge, which makes sure that learners are motivated. And really importantly as well, there's a spaced repetition system so that it makes sure that everything that the students do study or learn on Gamerize Dictionary, they're getting review timed in a way that will maximize their retention of the language. It can be used before a class as a sort of flipped learning solution, so the students know the core information or phonics or reading or vocabulary they need to then be able to just use it in class to maximize that class time. It can also be used in a more traditional sense as homework. And what we're going to see today is using it in class. I think the most obvious thing is to get the kids to do it at home. We want to kind of increase their overall time spent working on English, but it has some very distinct advantages when used in class as well. So hopefully you'll get a sense of that. Finally, it's fun. Kids love it. They get really into it. It's something that, again, if you've got an early finisher in a class, what happens to us a lot at our school is kids will run up and go like, Gamerize, please, Gamerize, please, Gamerize, please. So not only are they, they finish something early, but they don't go like, another task I have to do. They see it as a reward, even though it is some very intense, in fact, intensive rather, language practice. And the Gamerize Dictionary does have now the Super Kids series in it, which makes it much easier. You don't even need to assign things through the dashboard. You can allow students to work through the content on the bookshelf, or you can kind of point them to it, which again, you'll see shortly. There we go. So that's my quick explanation of Gamerize Dictionary. How should we proceed next? Kayo, should we look at the video?
Yeah, I think we can look at the video, and then after the video, I can explain a little bit about the benchmark assessment as well.
Okay, so I'm really excited to show this class. We worked quite hard on getting this video together. We had a professional film crew. I mean, it was a couple people. I guess it's not a full crew that came and videoed the class, and we put it together in a way that we think it will be sort of something that makes sense of the chaos. Will help you to be able to understand how differentiation is working in this class. So I'll stop it at 3 or 4 points and kind of give a bit of extra information. But also please, put your questions in the chat or jump in anytime if you'd like to ask anything. Okay.
Engage and empower your EFL learners. Differentiation made easy. In this video, we'll show how you can use the Super Kids series along with the Gamerize Dictionary and the Pearson English Benchmark Young Learners Test for differentiated instruction.
Wait.
Please write me like Smash Brothers.
Because interest. Math class.
The class is a mixed ability group of Japanese elementary school students from 6 to 10 years old.
Swimming class.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the EBYL scores in a moment. Just a little bit more information about that class. We've used Super Kids 3, which on the GSE scale is between 16 and I think 30. So it is actually does kind of fit with the score range of the class, but I would say that it's a little bit easy for some of them and a little bit hard for some of them. And then for some of the students in the middle, it was kind of just about right. And then after, I'm going to show you how we broke down the groups based on the EBYL results. And then after that, I'll actually screen share some of the results and kind of talk you through the rationale for the group making.
Prior to the class, the learners were given the English Benchmark Young Learners Test. Based on the results, they were divided into 4 groups and given different learning aims for the class. Group 1. The learners will be better able to say the names of after-school activities. Group 2. The learners will be better able to spell the names of after-school activities. Group 3. The learners will be better able to talk about their after-school schedule. Group 4. The learners will be able to write about their after-school activities with a higher degree of accuracy.
Okay, so those were the 4 groups. in this case, we didn't group them with stronger and weaker students together. And I think that that is a very good idea as well. In fact, I think in general in classes, you should vary your groupings frequently and make sure that you don't kind of always keep them set. So this was just an isolated class. I wouldn't necessarily keep them in those 4 groups for a whole year. And there's a lot of reasons why it's a good idea to vary the interaction. So really quick, I want to share what some of their score reports looked like. Hold on a second here. Hold on. Okay. Can you see that? Are you seeing a score report?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this was one of the, let's go back to the first one. Here we go. So this would have been an example of one of the students that we put into the first group. So their overall score was a bit lower for that group. Notice here that writing is at 0. The level 1 test doesn't really score writing. From level 2 up, there is a separate score for that. But this shows that, yeah, they're kind of overall a little bit lower compared to the rest of the group. And some of the this is what I'm sharing for you here is the parents report. There's actually a report that is made for the teacher, and there's a report that's made for parents. And there's recommendations below. So for example, this is related to listening, but help the child improve their vocabulary by using English words for places to go or things they do in their free time. Later on as well, when it speaks about speaking, try to expand their vocabulary by getting them to talk about different objects, blah, 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 blah. So there's a bit of a focus on just expanding their vocabulary. And this is what we tried to do, as you'll see soon. This is an example of a student from group 2. So the speaking score was doesn't look like a big jump, but this is actually quite a lot of distance in this GSE score. So they're going from a barely A1 to kind of a mid to high A1 in speaking. Reading was low, and again, writing is not tested. So for this group, we gave them work on the spelling more than the speaking. So this is an example from group 3. And this, so you'll notice group 3 was this group of older girls. It was 2 older girls and a younger girl. And this is a really high score for writing. They're really great. They're very studious and just really good at, doing grammar gap fills or spelling, that kind of thing, just super diligent. But for some reason, when you put them into a situation where they need to communicate and talk, they tend to kind of sit quietly for a while. And that was very much reflected in these scores where the speaking was the weak point. And yeah, you'll see how we tried to address that in the class. Finally, this is from the 4th group, and this is a level 3 test, which is quite high. And it might be one of the reasons why they've scored lower in the speaking and writing, because the task difficulty was quite high. But yes, you can see that writing was lower, speaking was a bit higher. And I suspect that the reason that the productive skills, the speaking and writing, was lower was due to accuracy more than fluency. You'll see when I show the video that these boys are they're ready to speak and they just write, they can just write tons. But sometimes it's like, ooh, how are you stringing those words together? They're not super concerned with accuracy. So that was something that we wanted to focus on.
Just quickly adding there also that the parents' reports are available in Japanese as well. So when you can give them to the parents, they'll be able to see the recommendations in Japanese. We do have a question from Naoko Sensei, who's asking if you use the same textbook in the class of mixed abilities.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of classes at our school that don't use a textbook, but more project-based learning stuff, which are almost always mixed ability. In this particular class, we do use the same textbook. I've made some adaptations with worksheets and stuff, which you'll see, but also, as Kayo showed before, that bank of activities is something that you can borrow from to make sure that the students are all getting their needs met and getting something at their level. Yes, but I would say definitely you can use the same textbook. Okay. Let's go to back to the video.
The class begins with some warm-up activities to activate the learner's knowledge of the lesson content.
You don't do soccer, okay. But some people do. We would go soccer. Okay, is busy okay, everybody? Busy?
Very busy. I'm very busy.
This is
Here,
Math
the learners are
class.
given activities that allow
Yes.
them, as well as the teachers,
this?
to recognize gaps in their knowledge.
I don't know. I know, it's soccer practice.
Groups 1 and 2 are given the chance to try to say and write the names of different after-school activities.
Do you do swimming?
No English.
No? How about you? Yeah? Okay.
No, what is your
Oh, that was a hard one to notice, but I just wanted to stop and point this out here. This was an example of the stronger student helping out a weaker student. Just now that boy says, what is juku? And then one of the stronger students at the next table is like, it's cram school. And he's like, cram school. And he picked that up in that. So certainly that cross-pollination between different level groups is yeah, something that you see a lot in these kinds of classes.
Soccer.
Groups 3 and 4 are given the chance to try to talk about and write about their schedules.
Okay, next, this group. Okay, so just to comment a bit on that section, I did want to point out that those the diagnostic activities that were there were something that I made. Really simple, didn't take very much time. They're just pictures of the vocabulary. And for the writing sheets, it was literally a prompt with some lines. And then I've made some simple schedule sheets, which we've reused for a bunch of different activities that you'll see. Now, it does seem that there's a lot of kind of assessment going on so far, in that we started with EBYL and then we're doing diagnostic activities. I think that is an important part of differentiated instruction, in that we're really trying to hone in on the needs, and we're trying to show the learners that they're progressing. So in this, you could see sort of that, they didn't know the vocabulary, or they were saying the vocabulary. Group 2 was saying the vocabulary, but then kind of going like this and like taking a crack at the spelling, but not really being able to do it. It's nice to be able to return to that at the end of the lesson and say, look, can you do it now? And they see specifically where they've made progress. But I was going to say that any kind of diagnostic activity like that doesn't need to be something that takes hours to make. You could simply just take activities out of that activity bank that was shown before, an activity out of the book, and throw the learners into it without kind of preparing them overly. I think if you prepare them too much, you never kind of get to understand what they know and what they don't know. They also don't get to sort of understand what they know or they don't know. So sometimes just like start with this game, listen in, watch, see what's going on. That can give you the data that you need to kind of make adjustments to your lessons and your groupings. In this case, I didn't actually change the groupings after the diagnostic, which I expected I would do. They ended up staying at the same tables because it kind of confirmed very much what I was expecting. Okay, let's continue on there. And let's do
Group 1 finishes early as they have little knowledge of after-school activities. They begin to learn the vocabulary on Gamerize Dictionary as the other groups continue with the diagnostic activities. and go to Super Kids. As the other learners finish the diagnostic activities,
now
they are
this
assigned
table,
adventures on the
please
Gamerize
do
Dictionary that
words
target their
Here.
needs.
Okay. This table, please do sentences. So on this table, we're going to do a little bit of writing together, okay? Great, all right. And go.
Okay, I have a confession to make. This setup for what they're doing on Gamerize was done after the class because the cameraman, again, was following me around and he was like, I don't think anyone's going to understand what they were doing. So I kind of staged like assigning different things. The way it really happened in the class was much more asynchronous. The first group, you saw that as the other ones were doing the diagnostic test, I kind of just gave them that and said, let's do this. And it was more kind of, there's less time of me sort of standing in the front of the class addressing everyone, and more of me kind of just moving around to tables and saying, oh, let's do this. Oh, nice job. You need a bit of help with that. But yes, for again, it can look chaotic. So this was done to sort of cover that up a bit. Yes. Finally, the fourth group there, I set a writing task. So they're not actually doing Gamerize, but they were supposed to use the dictionary in Gamerize in order to, find the spellings of words or how to say words that they weren't familiar with. Okay.
Oh.
Dance class.
Group 1 practices saying the vocabulary.
Math class. English class. Dance class. Library class.
And then this group, okay, we're gonna go to.
Group 2 practices spelling the vocabulary.
Yes. CP. Ah, that's SE.
Do we have
Group 3 practices making statements and closed questions about their after-school schedules.
English class on Tuesday? Dance class. Swimming class on Saturday.
Group 4 works on a writing task using Gamerize Dictionary for vocabulary support when needed.
Calligraphy. Calligraphy. Why do you like Smash Brothers?
Because interesting.
It's interesting. Okay, so let's write a bit about.
Here, they are using the Gamerize Dictionary for more accuracy-focused practice.
There was a nice little bit there as well that's a bit easy to look over. But the boy in group 4 on the right side, he actually was able to write. I gave him a bit of feedback on his first attempt and he was able to correct that and he did it quite quickly. So he was kind of above the overall level of the content. So because the other kids were working on Gamerize and I was freed up, I could kind of work with him one-on-one a bit. And I said, so what do you like to do in your free time? And he said, play Smash Brothers. So I was like, okay, so how do you play Smash Brothers? And he was like, just play. It's like, well, what do you do first? And he said, first and then he started to talk about it. I said, okay, write it. So this is an example of differentiation of content. Yeah, in fact, so that he was actually writing about something that he's particularly interested in, more motivating for him. And yeah, just done on the fly like that.
We have a question from Sato Sensei. If this setting is a private elementary school or private English school. So this is your own school, right, Adam?
Yeah, this is our school. So it is an AKAI or a private English school. This same kind of thing does work very well in elementary schools as well. So yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
And yeah, I will continue there. Okay.
Of the target language. They're able to get immediate feedback on their spelling and pronunciation. They have ample opportunities to try again and get it right. Most importantly, they can go at their own pace. Every learner is different.
Okay, can you do it one more time here?
So I feel like I'm stopping it quite a lot, but there's one bit that I want to talk about a little bit there as well. So even if your content is the same for the whole class. One thing that I find really exciting when using Gamerize in class is that the students, they work through it at their own pace, right? So, you know, when let's say you're addressing the whole class together, right? And you're trying to teach them something more accuracy focused, like spelling and vocabulary, pronunciation. I find that tends to be, the pacing is always an issue. It might be too fast. You'll get through a sequence of activities and you'll have 3 students who still just don't know it at all. And 4 that knew it from the start and they still know it. So it feels like not a lot of progress is being made where it needs to be made. Yeah, and I think, in fact, when you're working with a whole class, if you're doing pronunciation drills or that sort of thing, especially with a larger class, you can actually do more harm than good, in that if you've got some students that are kind of mumbling along and flying under the radar, they're actually reinforcing that habit and practicing that kind of not the inaccurate pronunciation of words, that sort of thing. So with Gamerize, they can't really avoid it. They get feedback specifically on their own errors. They go at their pace. If they get it wrong, they try again. Everyone's kind of route to learning the content is a little bit different. Some of them are much quicker. Some of them do a lot more sort of thinking before they do it. Some just charge in and make a lot of mistakes and learn that way. But on the whole, it's just, yeah, a lot more efficient. And for different types of content like we saw there, I can't actually think of a better way to do that. Yes. Right, let me let it run again. I think now I'll probably just let it run till the end there.
To
follow this up,
we're going to
the
play
learners do
activity
activities
1.
out of the Super Kids book. This gives the
A
learners a
at the
chance
top.
to interact
In the
and
back,
use the target
let's
language
do
they practiced on
2.
Gamerize Dictionary.
Okay, so first, we have swimming class on Sunday. Good job. Okay.
Groups 1 and 2 are given activity A, which is more scaffolded
Now it's
and
your turn.
practices making affirmative statements with the target language.
Good job. Okay, your turn. Your turn. Calligraphy is like writing beautiful letters.
1, 2, 3, and my turn.
Number 1.
Groups 3 and 4
English class,
are
Monday.
given the more
Can you make a
challenging
question?
activity B, which focuses on making questions and answers.
No, we don't. Good. No, we don't. Or yes, we do. Okay.
Plastics have the sources. Yes, we do. Do we have a math class on Friday? Yes, I do.
Yes, we have. Is this okay?
Learner-centered activities like this are ideal for allowing learners to take risks and try to use language in new ways. As a result, they have made some useful errors. This allows for a bit of delayed feedback, which is a great learning opportunity.
Don't move. Very good. Nice. Yeah. We're going to make
In this section, the learners get more practice
busy
with their
schedule.
specific learning aims.
Make a busy schedule. So please look here.
Groups 1 and 2 decide on a schedule, with Group 1 simply pasting in pictures of the activities, and Group 2 writing them into the schedule.
Good idea. Then swim. So we'll glue swimming here.
English class on Monday. English class.
Which is better?
Here, English class. Math class is here. There. It's here. 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 Here is what? Here. This.
Seconds.
This. This is this. Yes, almost. I don't know. So I'm looking.
Okay. In this schedule,
Group 3
we're going to
practices
write some
speaking, and
activities
Group
here.
4 practices
Same
writing
activities
about their
together.
schedule
So, for
using
example,
prompts.
Let's put swimming here. No, we have swimming here. Or let's put English class here. Good idea. Okay. And
Which one? No. Okay, so please write the things you do on those days. After school or not school, okay?
And go.
Go to school. Okay.
You finished?
I am finished.
This final activity is a mingle, in which the learners are using their work from the previous stage as prompts.
No one. Baseball. Dance? Later. Later. School?
No.
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Ballet class, no, dance class is Wednesday.
Do you have?
Soccer practice is Sunday.
Do you
Finally,
have play
we
games?
wrap up
Is
once
this okay?
again with
Yes
some
or no?
delayed feedback.
No?
It's clear that each group has made progress with their specific learning aims,
Monday morning
as well as
school,
progress with some of the higher level aims. Though they still have work to do on their accuracy with the target language, the automatically scheduled space repetition reviews and AI-generated reviews on Gamerize Dictionary will ensure that they get the practice they need to get it right and fully retain the language they've learned.
Half tennis classes, okay. This one, great job. Nice one.
And there we have it. There you go. So does anyone have any questions or comments on that class?
John Sensei asked, how long is the lesson time?
So that was I think just under an hour. It was probably, 50 minutes to an hour.
Excellent. Do you want me to go through then quickly about English benchmark, which was featured at the beginning of the video?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're going to go back to the beginning there, but go ahead.
Yeah, so let me share my screen again. And thanks for sharing those score reports too. So I was going to go into a little bit more detail on what those reports show in case people are interested. But here I just wanted to show just the kind of the typical learning cycle. And I think you've gone through most of it in the video that you shared. So setting up objectives using something like the global scale of English, and then using Super Kids and Gamerize in terms of content, and then assessing. And I think you also showed a little bit about, oh, sorry, I thought I had a slide about the different, oh, here we do, the different uses of English benchmark young learners. So like you've used it as a formative diagnostic tool at the beginning of class. So you can use it to see where students' strengths and weaknesses are. And then you're able to, assign certain activities to this group or certain activities to another group based on the results of those score reports that we saw. But it can also be used as a progress monitor as well, which is a fundamental part of that learning cycle that we're looking at. So like formative assessment, looking at what the children can do, and then making sure that you can personalize activities and personalize their goals based on their scores. And it will also be helpful for high stakes exams. Eventually, if your children are taking ACAN, it will let you know if they're ready for ACAN or not. And it's quite engaging as well. We saw the kids having fun with it. And I think, Adam, you were saying that the kids actually enjoyed it, even though it's a test. Which is nice to hear, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's definitely got a bit of that kind of gamey quality to it. And the lower level tests are quite short, I think, as well.
Yes, they're very short.
Longer as they go up. Obviously, there's more to test. So, I mean, if you put a grade 1 student who's just starting English through a 40-minute English test, it's just torture.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So they're very short and sweet and very fun as well. So I just wanted to pop up those score reports again, just so that people can take a good look at these. So it's really what we call it, the secret sauce, I guess, of these EBYL assessments are the really rich data that it provides. So Adam was walking through his particular class here. We also have the individual score reports here as well. And this is for one sitting. So this is the one that Adam showed. You can see the average score and that this particular student on the left, not so good at listening, but really good at some of the other skills, so that you can, make sure that you support that student in listening a bit more than the other skills. And then on the right, you see performance trend over time. So this is if you're using EBYL as a progress test and checking at certain periods, you see a very nice, this is probably kind of an ideal progress that you're seeing. Sometimes it might not be this smooth, but you see kind of a little bit of progress from September to January, etc. And then this is kind of the second page of the score report, where it goes in a bit more detail. So I've kind of zoomed it out so that you can see what some of the things say. So the number one thing that it says there is that it gives you kind of a very clear can-do statement, phrased really simply so that you know what children can do at each stage. And then the number two that we've highlighted, this is where the formative nature really comes out. So it's not just about what they can do, but then what steps they can take next. So giving teachers ideas on what to do next. And then you see some activities, example activities, general activities of what they can do. And then number three, this is kind of the nice part for us at Pearson, is that if you're using Pearson courseware like Super Kids, it will also map recommendations to Super Kids itself. So they take the test and then it will give suggestions. If, for example, they're not very good at listening, it will give some suggestions on listening activities to do from Super Kids. And this is just kind of a summary slide about English benchmark. It is a formative assessment for children aged 6 to 13. And we have a little video reel since we're not going to be able to show the actual walkthrough of the assessment. You can see it there. And yes, test time is very short. And we do use AI technology similar to Gamerize for speech recognition. Maybe Adam, if you could share a little bit of your feedback using EBYL.
Sure.
That it's fun. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that it's fun. And I think we've already kind of gone through the score reporting and stuff like that there, but the parents' reports are really neat, actually, because it gives, I'm actually quite curious how parents in Japan react to these, because I haven't had a chance to give them to any parents yet. But they give suggestions like, when you're at, you should ask your child what, about the time in English, or, it kind of encourages the parent to kind of interact with the child in English, or help them in different ways, which I think a lot of parents often want. Certain types of parents really want to hear more suggestions of what they can do. Some parents might find, well, they might just ignore it, but they might feel like there's a lot of insecurity about using English with your own children in some families in Japan. I'm not sure, but I think having those suggestions for parents is a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, I think so. And then if they're not so confident with their own English, they can do things like Gamerize or other things that students can do on their own also, I think. Reading readers and things like that.
Yeah, that's the key. And I think what one of the advantages in my mind are of it is the kind of informal nature of it. And it's not like pass or fail. It's showing very specific progress by skill area. If you have no way of addressing those, then it can be just like, well, here's your assessment. This is where you are, good luck. But if you do have, again, something like Gamerize, and you can assign something very specific, or you've got certain worksheets, or you can tell the parents that in classes we're working on this specifically in these ways, then I think that results in a lot of more awareness from the parents, and more, I don't know if loyalty is the right word, but the parents really feel that the child's
committed,
being taken care of and taken looked after. Okay. So I think we're pretty much at the end of things there, right?
Yeah, I think so, unless you wanted to share any testimonials or anything, other videos that you had mentioned. But yes, we're almost at time, and I think you want to leave some room for questions or feedback, or if we don't have any questions or feedback, you can show some of those.
Actually, that would be
some of the
good.
videos.
If I could hear from anybody who's there, I mean, you can turn off your mic and talk. What are some ways that you've used differentiation in your own classes, whether knowingly or not knowingly? Also, are there any experiences with Gamerize Dictionary? I see some of our users in the audience there. Yeah, please share. I will call on you.
Your teacherness coming out there.
That's right. Naoko, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Tell us, do you have a lot of mixed ability classes, or what are some things that you do to kind of suit different types of learners in the same class?
Oh yeah. As you said, there is a lot of benefits, and we can focus on students' progress individually. So, and also, I heard that the student. I mean, last year, my lesson was based on a 1 hour lesson, but I changed the style like you do, and the lesson is expand. No, for the elementary school, 80 minutes, and also the junior high, more than 10 years old, 11 years old students, they take 2 hours lesson, but they don't feel, it's wrong. They enjoy it. And because I installed Gamerize, and also they do what they have to do. So there is a lot of benefit, but I think for this class, I think we need the skill of the teacher rather than skill. The teacher needs to know the students, at the student level of English and their personality. So having known the children for long time for me, so I can immediately imagine and visualize how I can, control the lessons. But a new teacher cannot do that. So some teacher request me to use the same book for one class,
right?
Something to do one class. So that is one thing I, face to the problem right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think again, we talked about prep time and skill. It is obviously easier for teachers who are coming in just to kind of pick up the book and look at what page is next. Right. Yeah, and I feel like the best thing is to make it kind of a requirement not to do that in a sense. In that, yeah, again, it does require some training and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think like the digital tools like EBYL or Gamerize can really help those teachers as well. I think a lot of the schools that are using Gamerize are not using it in class on the fly as much. One of the ways that again, this is I'm talking about myself, not a less experienced teacher, but that I've found really useful is, for example, the other day I asked a girl in a class that I was covering, a girl that I didn't know very well. Oh, hello, like, what's your name? How old are you? When I asked her how old you are, she counted on her fingers. She went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. I was like, okay. So you can count, but it means you can't produce whatever number you'd like on the fly. So I said, just a sec, jumped on a computer, made a quick adventure with numbers 2 through 12, I think it was, sent it to her, started off with another activity, and then she joined in. At the end of the class, I said, so how old are you? And she went, 8. I'm 8. She got it right away. So, that's much more difficult to do without some kind of a digital tool that can adapt to the student, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've got a few comments in there. So from John, we've got the question, how can we figure in the EBYL into our curriculum? How is it administered? How much does it cost, etc.? Here we go. Those are questions for you, Kayo.
Yeah, so I said we can get in touch with John Sensei after this session, but it is quite easy to administer. We've gotten feedback that sometimes teachers are a bit scared to use digital tools in the classroom because they're unfamiliar with it and they're afraid the teachers and the children will be unfamiliar with it. But we have a lot of feedback saying it's really simple to administer. So we do have some best practice type things which can share, but it rest assured it's quite simple to do. And oftentimes with these things, the children know what to do with it more so than the teachers and the administrators do. So they can go through it quite quickly. But then we can also let you know how about the dashboard and checking out on your student score reports and things like that, which we can share after this session.
Yeah, you don't need an invigilator or anything like that, right?
No, you don't. So you can assign it to be done at home as well if you want it to be done that way. But if you do it in the class, it's always helpful to kind of have a teacher walk around in case someone gets stuck.
Yeah, at home also there is the risk that you'll have a very keen parent who's going to be like whispering in the child's ear. I think it is, I mean, something that you can ask the students to come and do at the school.
Yeah, in most cases it's been done in the classroom. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay.
Any other questions or feedback from anyone? We are almost at time, so thank you very much for sharing your Sunday morning with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So just to remind everyone, we do want to give away free trials of English Benchmark Young Learners and Gamerize. So if you're interested in those, please fill out the form that Chihiro has put in the chat box. And once again, thank you everyone for joining and have a great Sunday. And hopefully the sun is still out for you where you are.
Yes, indeed. Yep, thank you very much. Yeah, I hope there was something that useful that you could take away from that. And I'm happy if you reach out to us. You can apply through our webpage, gamerize-dictionary.com, if you want a trial, or if you want to set up a meeting with myself or one of our team to kind of discuss possibilities or how you can make it work for you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.